Hit record. Okay, so board member Pace, well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the District 6 meeting of October. Board member Pace and board member Johnson. Most of our constituents are in the room, and so as I see more come in, we'll let them in. But the floor is yours to get the meeting started.
Awesome. Thank you, Keith. Appreciate that. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Hope y'all are doing well. I know it's a rainy day, kind of cloudy, overcast, and not a lot of warmth and sunshine. But hopefully, you've had some bright spots in your day or week so far. We're excited that you have joined us this evening. And so we are looking forward to just sharing a few district updates with you, keeping everybody informed on what's happening around the district. And once we do that, we'll walk through a few slides. We'd love to just open it up for some dialogue. So really wanting to give an opportunity for you to ask any questions you might have, to share any thoughts, any comments, any concerns, almost kind of treat it like office hours, if you will. So it's a chance for you to share what's on your heart, what's on your mind, and for us to listen, to hopefully respond if we have an opportunity or an answer for what you're asking, but then also to take information and questions back if we don't have the answer immediately, and to find out for you, and to get that information. So again, we're grateful that you all are here, and looking forward to having some conversation with you this evening. Hey, Jessica, anything from you to get us started?
Thank you so much, Board Member Pace. Good evening, everyone. Jessica Johnson. I am your at-large Seat 9 board representative, and just happy to be here and connect with you all again. Looking forward to the conversation.
Uh, Keith. All right. So high level, and Keith, we can tag team this as you like, but happy to jump in and make it move. So as you all may have heard recently, APS experienced its highest graduation rate in district history. So it's certainly something to be excited about, to give kudos to all of our team members across the district, all those who play a part in ensuring that our students make it across the stage and get those diplomas in hand. We had an opportunity actually as well this summer to attend our summer graduation. We have our adult ed graduation. And so when we look across the board from May onward, our students are doing amazing things to persist and matriculate on to greater and better options post APS, be it post secondary, from a college perspective, be it a trade school, a vocational route, straight into employment, or even the military for some of our students as well. So we're excited to be expanding and growing those pathways and those options for our students. But this is certainly something historic that we'd like to celebrate. And as many would recognize, certainly there is more work to do to ensure that those students who are graduating prepared and ready, be it from a literacy perspective or a math-based perspective in terms of their proficiency. And so those are things that we're continuing to invest in and continue to work on as we continue to experience these high graduation rates. So kudos to our team. All right. And we got to say kudos to our parents and families as well, right? So you all are a big part of this puzzle. We cannot do this work without you. And so we wanted to make sure that we acknowledge that as well. This is an amazing moment here that we experienced just a couple weeks ago. It's a project or an initiative called Hank Aaron Diamonds. Had a chance to be present here where Dr. Johnson spoke. We had all of our athletic directors and kind of head coaches from all of our APS high schools present at Truist Park. And we partnered with the Atlanta Braves Foundation, excuse me, the Henry Louis Aaron or Hank Aaron Fund, to essentially refurbish all of our softball and baseball fields across the district. So all of those fields will get upgraded for every school. They'll start kind of in a phased process. So some of our schools will get kind of the first tranche, and then they'll move to the next wave. So it'll take place over the next couple of years. Won't be very long in terms of the process, but wanting to make sure that we do it well, we do it right. But the dollars and the resources have been committed by the Braves and the Hank Aaron Fund. So we're really, really excited about this partnership, giving our students an opportunity to play on some of the best fields possible, high quality. And again, it just shows the power of partnerships and what we can do in terms of creating more access and opportunity for our students across the district. And you think about partnerships in the neighborhoods as well, also creates an opportunity to partner with places and spaces like the Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, and others to, again, create more access in the community for students who are interested in sports. And then just thinking about different opportunities for those students, again, where the resources may not be present. But as we think about career opportunities as well, we've been talking through partnerships with folks like the Braves to ensure that not only do they have a chance to play, but that they get exposed to and explore opportunities in different sports-based industries. So certainly the Braves will be one of those. We think about opportunities for internships and career growth after high school. So really, really excited about that opportunity for our students. Now, how many of you, just by a maybe thumbs up, I know most folks are off camera, but just by a quick thumbs up, if you can, have been to or visited our Family and Support Hub, our Student and Family Support Hub? Or you've heard of it? How about that? Even if you haven't visited. There we go. All right. We see a thumb or two popping up there. Excellent. Excellent. If you have not been there, we would love for you to take a visit. Happy to help schedule a visit or a tour. There are all kinds of amazing things happening at this particular space, located in kind of the west part of our city, closer to the AU Center in Friendship Baptist Church. So we had a food drive recently. We do this monthly where we're passing out food and groceries and opportunities to our students and families. And so it is usually taking place the last Monday of each month, 10:30 a.m. until the food runs out. So the last meal, last bag, last food item is given out. So we just had one a couple days ago. And we are, of course, as we know, with a lot of the federal changes happening, particularly around SNAP benefits, that there are going to be more families who will be in need. And so we are constantly exploring partnership opportunities. We have a grocery store opportunity that's available with Gooder, that's based out of the hub as well, and it's operating by appointment. We are also working with other philanthropic partners to ensure that, again, opportunities like this are taken advantage of, and that we are fully stocked, right? And that we have the resources we need to make sure our families are getting what they need to make sure they persist and that nothing goes missed in their household. So if you have any ideas, other partnerships, other ways that we can beef up this opportunity for our families, please don't hesitate to let us know. The Atlanta Community Food Bank is a huge partner of ours. We'll continue working with them going forward. But if you have other resources, maybe you have relationships with other grocery stores or major chains or any other kind of related opportunity, we would love to connect with you. Would love for you to send us that info. Love to have a conversation about it as well to see how we can, again, maximize all of our partnerships and alliances in the community as well. If you'd like to volunteer, we also welcome volunteers to help us stock our spaces and places, and not just here at the hub, but actually many of our schools actually have pantries as well. We had a chance, Jessica and I, to visit with Phoenix Academy, located at the Alonzo Krim site in the east side of town, just off of Maynard Terrace. And they actually have a pantry there. They have a pantry, they have a resource room with the clothes. So there are tons of opportunities for the community to donate non-perishable items, but also clothing items as well for a variety of our students across the district, from elementary to high to our alternative-based programs as well. Again, so there's always a chance to plug in, and we'd love for you to do that. If you're cleaning out your closet, you turn it over for winter clothes now and fall clothes as things get a little bit cooler outside, and you say, you know what, I'm not going to wear this thing anymore, not going to wear those shoes anymore. Here's a coat I can donate. Any of those items, please bring those to us. We would love to put you in touch with our folks at the hub, and again, any of our particular sites to make sure that our students and our families are resourced in the best way possible. Okay. So a couple of district updates here related to budget, technology, and mental health and well-being resources. So some of you may have seen this on September 30th, just prior to our October board meeting. There was a budget commission meeting that took place here at the Center for Leadership and Learning, or CLL. And our Chief Financial Officer, Lisa Bracken, gave us a great overview on the committee, and Lisa worked through kind of the latest updates to the budget, the things that have been most critical to that, looking at the multi-year forecast as well, and kind of how that integrates with the community facilities planning that we've been talking about the past several months. So it was a great opportunity to really dig in to get the big picture, if you will, of what our finances look like, how we can sustain those things, how we can operate in a more effective and efficient way as well. And so, again, you've seen some of those things play out in our facilities master planning conversations, and we are super appreciative for your input in the process, because it's actually helped us to think through the best way to approach this and what kind of things we can take into consideration when it comes to our finances. So all of the feedback that you all have given us through our surveys, through the Talk It Out or Let's Talk system online, through the in-person meetings that we've had locally at the schools and in the clusters, all of that has come back to our leadership, including our Chief Financial Officer, including our Budget Committee. And so all of those things have been incorporated here. And so we'd be happy to, if you don't have access or haven't seen it, to share the appropriate links out that you can look at the recap of that Budget Commission meeting, see all the appropriate documentation. We can provide links for that as well, to take a preview of those documents also. Right. As far as technology goes, we want to make sure that students and families are essentially connected. We know that this year we have extended learning days, and so students will have what we call asynchronous learning. So we've got one coming up next week on Election Day on the 4th. So students will not report to school, but they will stay home that day, but they still would have some Google Classroom-based assignments and some other virtual opportunities to engage and complete work there. So we want to make sure that families are connected. And so there are free wireless hotspots that are available. And so we have resources and partners that have helped us to do that with Lean Stream connectivity. And so we're happy to provide that information to families as well. And if there are any other needs that you may have related to technology, certainly make sure that you reach out to us, whether it's related to Chromebooks that all students have, and accessibility and usage of those, if it's functioning well or not so well, again, or if it's Wi-Fi or any other technology related needs, want to make sure that we are being responsive and attentive to those to ensure that all of our families have access. So please let us know if that is an issue for you at all. And then, of course, at the end of the year, when it's time to turn those devices in, we want to make sure that those get in so they can be looked at, maintained, and repaired properly if they need to be, or updated so that we have them back and ready once the school year begins again and be reissued out to all students. Last but not least here, how many of you, just again by a thumb or heart or a clap, have heard of Talk It Out at all? All right. So that is semi-exciting, right? We want you to know about it, but the fact that you don't means we get a chance to tell you more about it. So Talk It Out is a new initiative that we launched at the top of the year in January to provide mental health and well-being support for our students. So it is a 24/7 hotline, if you will. It's a number that students can actually text and reach out. We have some folks who are staffing that line 24/7 for students to reach out if they are, feeling like they need someone to talk to, if they are maybe having a momentary crisis, if they are feeling a certain way from a physical health perspective, or if they're having certain kinds of thoughts, feeling maybe some symptoms or signs of depression, any of those kinds of range of things that might be impacting students. This is an easy, direct, quick access way where they can connect with someone who will talk with them and or get them connected directly to a resource that matches or fits the need that they have in that moment. And so there has been lots of coverage about this through various local news media outlets. As we've been having our breakfast with the board conversations throughout the year with our students, we've been making sure that we've been sharing this with them as well. And so we want to make sure that folks are aware of this resource as we continue to hear our students, but also make sure that we have resources available for them in a timely and readily available fashion. Got some athletics highlights. I don't know how many of you have been following our teams throughout the season. So all of our teams are doing well. Generally speaking, we've got a few that are standing out, so to speak, right? They have some amazing records, and they are either already secured for playoff runs or borderline playoff run. I know some of them are contingent upon this last game of the season happening this Friday on Halloween. And so we're really excited to continue to kind of watch how things play out. I know Carver had a great season. South Atlanta's doing some good things. Mays had a pretty solid season. North Atlanta had a decent season. So you'll see the listings here of the schools, primarily in District 6 and their upcoming games. Certainly from a football perspective, flag football is taking off for our young ladies, which is really exciting as well. And then we've got some other things as the swim season kicks in and cross country. So as those seasons ramp up and football season kind of winds down to some degree, we want to make sure that we're out and about supporting. Even if you don't have necessarily a kid who might be attending a school, it's always an amazing moment when students can look into the stands, be it players or cheerleaders or dancers or otherwise, and see the community supporting them. So we encourage you to come out and support and cheer us on to victory. So make sure that you are marking your calendars for all of those amazing activities. All right. And then lastly, here we have our APS Forward 2040 plan that many of you have been engaged in over the past several months, either from our facilities task force perspective, you've been engaged there, or from our community-based meetings where we've been coming out into the community hosting listening sessions and discussion sessions with our school-based leadership, our district leadership. And so it's been a really, really impactful journey where we have received thousands of survey responses. We've seen the same through emails, direct emails as well to all of our board members across the spectrum. You have texted us, you've called us, and so we are grateful for all of the feedback that you have given. As many of you may know, yesterday, the newest update, if you will, or summary for the scenarios for our school buildings and our facilities was released. And so these latest recommendations incorporate all of the feedback that we've been able to get from you as our District 6 families and community around what should happen next with our facilities and with our buildings. Again, particularly as we look at budget and making sure that we're being efficient and effective with how we manage our budget, how we execute and implement dollars around the district for different programs and resources and staffing and all the things. So again, we are really, really just grateful for you and say thank you for all of your feedback. So certainly hope that you have maybe had a chance within the last 24 hours to look at that. And if not, we just dropped the link in the chat so that you can see the refined scenarios and recommendations and kind of where things stand currently. And next week, of course, we have our November board meeting, which will happen on November 5th. So it's Wednesday. Typically, it would happen the first Monday of the month. But given the elections that are happening at the top of the week, decided to push that back just a couple days. So Wednesday will be our November board meeting. And it'll also be the first read of these kind of final recommendations that have come out. Again, no decisions have been made as of yet. We'll have first read November, and then December we'll have second read. And then that's when the board would vote on kind of a final recommendation. Well, we would receive, let me back up, rephrase that. We would receive a final recommendation from our leadership, from the superintendent and his team, and then the board will make a final decision on moving forward in terms of next steps based on the scenarios and the recommendation that we receive from district leadership. So we'll entertain questions momentarily around that. I know that's, of course, our hot button issue right now, the thing that's most present and most immediate, but wanted to give you just that quick update in case someone missed it as the news updated and dropped yesterday. Okay. So here is kind of where, just in a small, short breakdown, bulleted style of where the school repurposing kind of emerging from that facilities planning conversation is looking right now. So these are the schools that would primarily be impacted one way or another based on the recommendation. Again, no vote, no decision has happened as of yet. but based on the latest revisions that were posted and published yesterday, here are the schools that are tentatively impacted or potentially impacted. So you can see those listed there. Certainly, there are a couple of those who fall in District 6, like Cleveland Avenue, Continental Colony, Finch, which is kind of borderline. Technically, Finch will roll into District 6 next year based on some of the redistricting that has happened from the city council or the Atlanta City side of things. But certainly, Finch is in the mix there. Perkerson as well. And then Sylvan Hills Middle School are all those that are in District 6. You'll see the others across the district that are listed as well. And then you'll see, of course, two of our KIPP schools, KIPP partner schools that we have there that are charters in the city are also a part of this updated scenario as well. And so just walking you through a little more detail here, and again, we'll open it up for questions momentarily based on the latest recommendation and proposed plan. So for Cleveland Avenue, the plan or the scenario that has emerged in terms of what's being recommended to the board is that Cleveland might be repurposed. And essentially what that means is that in a couple years, as of spring 27, the close of that school year, it would cease to be a PK through 5 school, and those students would be redispersed or redistributed, right? That feeder pattern would be realigned to the other 4 elementary schools in the South Atlanta cluster. And then Cleveland Avenue itself, the building would be repurposed. And so what does that repurposing potentially look like? And so this is a conversation, that we've started to have about all of our potential facilities. And is essentially, it could be a community hub, right? So that could be anything from an after school program based there in the building, nonprofits that are providing services to the community. It could be a grocery option. It could be a health clinic. So those are things that we would explore and talk through with the community. We wouldn't make decisions of our own to say what should happen here. We would, again, kind of walk through a process of engaging with community around what should this look like? What could this look like? What are the needs in the community? And what would you like to see happen there? So wanted to share that with you. And of course, you'll see the potential savings that would be realized as a result of repurposing that particular property at Cleveland Avenue Elementary. Right. So 2 QR codes here for folks to scan for additional resources. One on the left, certainly for the school board meeting calendar for the remainder of the year. Again, we mentioned that our November board meeting is happening on Wednesday, the 5th. So look forward to folks joining us there. And again, as we have that first readout of the proposed scenarios and their recent revisions, we'd love for you to come, let your voices be heard during that first read in terms of open community comment and sign up. We'd love to hear your voice there. You can also scan the Let's Talk code. That's another way to reach us directly. And through this system, all of the feedback comes directly to us, as well as the consultants and Dr. Johnson and his team as well. So you've got 2 options there. We also dropped it in the chat if you just want to kind of click or copy paste and save that in another tab or another window to go back later and provide us that feedback also. Thank you, Keith, on advancing the slides for us. So I'll pause there, defer to Board Member Johnson if she has anything that she'd like to add before we kind of open it up for just general questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, all the things. Good, healthy dialogue and discussion. So thank you all for listening, and we'll open it up now. Jessica, anything?
No, thank you so much, Tolton. That was a wealth of information, and I hope you all were taking heed. I would just invite our community to come out to the board meeting on Wednesday. There is always a time set aside for public comment, and I would encourage you all to consider coming out to make sure that perspectives are heard.
Absolutely.
All right. So thank you, Board Member Pace and Board Member Johnson, for that. And so, community members, this is an opportunity for you guys, as Board Member Pace mentioned, for you to engage directly with them with all things related to District 6 or the district as a whole. If you do have a question, as we do for all of our community meetings, we ask you to raise your hand, use the raise hand feature, and we will call on you as we see you up here. All right. We'll call on Ms. Tucker, our first speaker. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry, off camera. I'm driving home from work. Thanks for the explanation, Tolton. I do have a question about just more of a process question. Can you explain for those of us who are unfamiliar what a first read actually means and what happens as part of that process, and just guide us through how you get to the final recommendations one more time? Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'll invite Jessica, of course, to add anything that I might miss. But essentially, what happens is kind of by law, if you will, right? We have to have a period of time where we not only advertise in terms of public comment through local media, newspapers, what have you, that a major decision such as this one is coming up. So there's certain things when it comes to real estate and in particular bills, that may be coming through the state house that we have to vote on. There's a period of time where we have to make that known to the public well in advance and have a period of time where there's an opportunity for the public to give feedback around that. And so when you talk about the first read and second read, it is essentially kind of the buildup and opening of the opportunity to do that. So with the first read, it's essentially a hearing of these proposed scenarios. So here is what the superintendent and his team is recommending to the board. So it's for a first hearing for us, a first hearing for the public at large, and then an opportunity for the community to share in public comment, right? To voice their thoughts and opinions in that moment. And then the second read is kind of that second opportunity to do that. And then from there, that final decision would be made the same day that that second read happens in that December board meeting as well. And so just to add to that real quick, Angelette, I'm sorry, is once that decision is made, so kind of for everybody's benefit, no immediate changes would happen. So whatever the decision is that the board votes on ultimately, whatever that ends up looking like, once the decision is made and it's voted on, if there's a majority to vote in favor of something one way or another, any changes that would happen in terms of the physical space of a school building, a repurposing, a merging or realignment, any of those kinds of things wouldn't begin to happen until the 27 school year. So there is a window of time in terms of planning and conversations that would continue to happen once a decision is made by the board in December. We would spend that time talking about everything from bus routes to attendance zones to the hubs that would happen in a particular community. Any number of things related to repurposing and realigning would happen during that period of time before any actual change of the physical space or build outs or additions or anything like that happens. You're welcome. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Tucker. Our next speaker would be Waukesha. Good evening, Waukesha.
Good evening. It is thick. Good evening. Hey y'all, it's been a while. I've never interacted with you, sir. Can you give me your name?
Yes,
District
Miss
Six board member. What is your
Waukesha.
name
Yes,
again?
yes, ma'am. Tolton Pace.
Toast and Face. Okay, good.
Yes.
Please know that my comments are always passion and it's never personal. We have
Absolutely.
had several different superintendents, and I noticed like every time a new superintendent come in, there's always this thing of school closure and merger, or even the thing about the money. I just, as we had Dr. Dowder, which was one of the excellent suits that we don't have by far, in my opinion. Um, it was never $100 million, deficit, but that's neither here nor there. As far as these schools, this is playing all together. How do you guys justify after we had this whole talks about goals and guardrails? How do you justify school communities that have been growing? We're talking about teachers and principals and other staff members, and even all the way down to the janitor. Like, how do we justify closing and merging schools when these individual communities have made these great gains that people are boasting about? Like, how do we justify that? And then the idea of merging communities together, there's uh how can I say this? There are um cause and effect. That could be not so great for these babies who are already in their own school communities, and they're making gains, and they're doing the best they can. Now we're talking about because of money. Maybe y'all won't have a librarian, or maybe y'all won't have a nurse. I honestly think before we came up with this plan, there should have been a conversation, just a public conversation, because we just got a new suit. Just a public conversation of how would that look first before we have to dive into we possibly can have to close our school down. And we're talking about hubs, creating hubs or early learning. We already have so many APS buildings that are sitting vacant right now. And then you're talking about let's just make these schools a hub. We already have a hub already. We have not lived that out. Very great idea, but that has not been lived out long enough to show that it has been 100% effective. And so we are looking to possibly create these ideas, right, for these schools where these communities have worked together and built their schools up and made gain. How do we really justify that? And what's the effect on our children? Because at the end of the day, people can say, grown folks can say whatever they want to. This is about these kids and them learning and being able to read and beat the odds and grow up to be successful. And yet, us grown people keep moving things around and shifting and doing what we think is best. These small schools have been getting their stuff together and they have been working. And I just want to hear, and I came on late, sorry to my head and my heart. But I just want to understand, like, how do y'all really feel about that? How do you feel about that pressure being on you that you have to vote yes or no? Because let me tell y'all something. I'm watching these other board members, and they are having their people call in, and they've been emailing the firm. And I noticed how the firm have took some of these schools off the list. But then the other schools where people may not be so engaged, I know parents that don't even know this stuff is going on, which is say, how do you justify this? How do this sit on your conscience that we're doing this yet again when you got the World Cup coming? We got all this development, especially on the South Side. I live on the South Side. I'm from Atlanta. Like, we have all these. How do we justify this? I'm a land. I just would love to hear. I would love to hear from you and Jessica. Hey, Jessica, how you doing?
Yeah, I love it. So what I'd love to do, thank you, Waukesha. I appreciate it. I've actually seen you in a couple meets. I heard you, but we hadn't had a chance to like meet directly. So thank you for your passion. If I could maybe do a little reverse approach, Jessica, since she's hasn't been much longer, but been on the board just a little bit longer than I have, if she could maybe give just a little maybe historical perspective in terms of like, how we got here, what we've seen recently, and then happy to chime in and add to some of the questions you asked, Ms. Waukesha, about the hub portion, vacant buildings, some of the things about gains in schools. So we can dig into that a little bit more.
Absolutely. Thank you, Board Member Pace. I think maybe let me just start by saying our superintendent has been clear to say this isn't where superintendents want to start when they are engaging with communities. I mean, he's been quite transparent with us, and he said, typically superintendents kick this part of the work because it is so hard to navigate down the line, and essentially that is what has happened. I think I serve on the Budget Commission, and a year ago, Lisa Brackens, our CFO, kind of started hinting at, we got these small school supplements. The money follows the students. The state views that a school should have a minimum. I don't know if it's 350 or 450. Somebody on the leadership team might be able to support me with that. And we have so many schools that are below that number. And so if any of you have just been following along with the board meetings and the conversations, this was a sincere buildup over time with decisions that were made well before my time, before Tolton's time, several superintendents ago, in terms of kind of how schools may have been positioned in terms of zoning years ago, where they will never get a critical mass of students to really be able to afford the high quality programming that we believe every APS student deserves. I think as a board member, I can speak for myself, and I believe I will lend it to Board Member Pace, would be that we're focused on student outcomes. And so when I hear that we can only afford a half of an art teacher in some schools and a half of this and a half of that, we can't continue down this pipeline. I mean, Superintendent Johnson did come into $100 million deficit, and I just want to make sure that we note that he started in CLL. He started in his building, and he had to get on the elevator with the people over the last 6 months, the last year that whose positions have been terminated at this point. And so it's a hard time to be a leader, and I want to say that, and I hope you guys receive that in a true spirit of transparency. I think that in regards to kind of the closing of schools and the growing communities, we really did look at the Sizemore data. We've been working with the consultants at HPM, and what we're seeing is a lot of the affordable housing that's coming down the pipeline is like 1-bedroom units, 2-bedroom units. The birth rates are lower than they have been in previous years, and if you look at 5 or 10 years out, we can't continue to move in this direction, and we don't anticipate there will be an overwhelming number of students with families with children that are school age that are going to be entering into some of our neighborhoods. And I agree with you 100%. There are a number of communities who have advocated, but Southside has also advocated. And I want you to know that Tolton and I, every meeting I walk into, I give out my personal cell phone. He gives out his personal cell phone. We've had some parent groups reach out to us. We've met with them at coffee shops. We've met with them for breakfast, and the superintendent has in turn met with those families. And we will continue to do that. We have a window of opportunity now to continue to shape what the final decision would be. And so in my call with the superintendent this week, one of the things that he shared is the intentionality of having communities between November, before we vote in December, within the next month to meet. And so Perkison and Finch are going to have an opportunity to meet up and learn from each other. We're going to start bringing in, and so we really are making genuine strides to ensure that we aren't erasing community spirits, but we're figuring out how to take the best of all the things that we're currently doing and then get the combined resources together so that we can serve every APS student well. And I'll pause, kick it over to you, Tolton, to see for you to take it from.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. That you read my mind. And so, Waukesha, like you, I'm a native Atlantan as well, product of APS, and so this hits home for me, right? Because I've had a chance to watch this play out over time, in different ways through different superintendents, in different scenarios and priorities and all the things. And so, to Jessica's point, unfortunately, this kind of can has been kicked down the road for a number of years, and so we unfortunately and fortunately have the opportunity to address it now, and not push it down the field. Like, we want to be responsible board members and responsible superintendent, which is why he's kind of taking this on, to say, hey, we can't put this off any longer, in the sense of having the conversation about how do we operate more efficiently and effectively, and how do we make sure we're bringing the best programming possible to not just some schools or some clusters or some parts of town or some feeder patterns, but to all of our students and families across the district, be that classes, be that pathway options, be that partnerships and programs, be that resources, where you talk about where there might be food deserts, like how can we get grocery stores or access to groceries in a space, right? So we're thinking about like all of these different things, and incorporating and thinking about performance along the way, right? So one of the very first questions I asked of the consultants when they first started this process was, yes, all right, I see the facility score, you're telling me a condition of a building, but also let's think about and incorporate legacy of schools and clusters, right? Let's also think about performance of schools and clusters. Let's think about whether a new principal was just placed there or not, right? Let's think about all these kind of other metrics, as we're navigating this journey of what do we do next, and how do we make things most efficient and most effective. So just wanted to share that with you. You mentioned the vacant properties that we have. So yes, there are currently 47 unactivated properties, we like to say. Some of those have been that way for a while, right? Some of them are blighted. Some have been transition buildings for schools, as we maybe done renovations in the past years, and a school might move to one location temporarily and then come back to their home site. So they've been kind of used in different ways or unused. And so that's something that's top of mind for us is, do we sell some of those properties? That would also help offset some of this budgetary crisis that we find ourselves in, right? Do we lease some of those things long term to programs and nonprofits who are out there, or foundations? So what do we do with those properties? A really good example of that is one that we voted on in our last board meeting earlier this month, and that's the Tiger Woods Foundation, who will be coming in to the old Capitol View Elementary School on Metropolitan, Old Stewart Avenue, and they're going to transform that space. It's a $30 million investment. So we're doing a long-term lease with them to provide dynamic programming from STEAM and career exploration opportunities in that space. So if you think kind of like a junior achievement discovery center that's down at the World Congress Center, right? Think about that slightly smaller scale, but based at Capitol View Elementary School, right? The old Capitol View, and how that will create access and exposure to our students, not just in that neighborhood, but all across the district, right, as well. And so that was one of the things that we asked. We said, hey, if you're coming in, even though you're a national foundation, we want to make sure that our students have first right of access to this property, to this space, to this programming. And certainly they'll have other students that'll be there from surrounding districts as well. But given using APS property, we're entering into an agreement. We want to make sure our students have access to this first. So that's just an idea of kind of what's happening with those vacant properties. And no, again, it's top of mind for us, top of mind for Dr. Johnson, that as we work through existing spaces that we're currently occupied, we're also working through those that are unactivated as well. And we know, with the hub, for example, that right now, yes, there's a hub that, hasn't been open too long, but it's showing some great signs of success from terms of providing resources and being an event space for things like the Hispanic College and Career Fair that we had there a couple weeks ago. But if we could replicate something like that and have it available, not just in one space, but we can have it in neighborhoods where families could walk to and they can get to even easier than coming to one central spot. That seems to be the rally cry, so to speak, of neighborhoods and communities in APS as well. So just wanted to give you some additional insight there to try to address some of the things that you mentioned. And then last but not least, one of the things when I came on board, and certainly other board members echoed this as well, I've had the opportunity to work in workforce development and affordable housing in my career. And so we would love to have educator workforce housing activated in some of these spaces and places that are empty buildings or buildings that are being repurposed. Majority of our teachers actually live outside of the city limits of Atlanta, right? One, there's affordability issues, spacing, there's a number of things right there. So what would it look like to have affordability for the folks that are educating and serving and caring for our students right here where they work every single day? And so that is a dream of ours. That is a hope and a desire of ours. We've heard that from our community as well. And so we think we can have a real chance of making something like that happen.
Thank you, Board Member Pace and Board Member Johnson. Anyone else? And again, this not necessarily have to be about facilities, it could be anything district related. All right, we go Abby.
Thank you. I just had a quick question about that 450 student number. I've also heard 600 is a threshold for certain kinds of funding at some meetings. And I'm wondering if we could get a link to like where the state policy is, where they set those numbers, because I haven't been able to find that.
Absolutely. We can definitely get that to you. I think Dr. Bradshaw may be most easily accessible to get that if we don't have it readily available right now for one of our team members. But yes, so there's a different threshold for each grade level, not each grade level, but elementary has a threshold, then middle has a threshold, and then high school has a threshold. Rough math, top of head, we'll get you the exact numbers, but it's roughly about 1,000 for high school. Middle school is somewhere hovering around the 700 mark, and then elementary is closer to that, like 400, 450 mark. But we'll make sure that we get the actual numbers to you.
Okay, thank you. And then I just saw Waikisha's comment about the lines. I know there are some like pretty significant boundary realignments in these latest scenarios, but I am wondering like why we never got to see sort of a district-wide option for redrawing lines, since overcrowding is an issue as well as under enrollment. why wasn't that like an option at any point during any of these presented scenarios?
Happy to share more on that. And I know we've got a couple of our leadership team members here if they would like to chime in as well. So it's somewhat of a phased approach. Dr. Johnson has shared that kind of the first order of business from um, really a facilities expense stewardship perspective, right, is really kind of the first step in that process. So you talk about facilities usage, right, conditions of buildings, what's costing us more to maintain, where are we seeing the realization of dollars and where are we not based on student enrollment and programming and staffing. But then from there, also looking at, to your point, the lines, right? So if that's attendance zones, looking at the growth patterns that Jessica mentioned earlier in terms of birth rates, working with the city, and we've been having those conversations to figure out, all right, where's the development happening? What are the Sizemore, studies and research showing in terms of what the numbers will look like in the next 3 to 5 to 10 years? Who's moving into the city? How's the population expected to grow? So it's really kind of a phased-in approach. So we have considered some of those things, but when you look at the redrawing of lines as a first step, it's almost a somewhat, I want to say, out of sync, but the progression as we've been instructed and as we've learned works a little better when you look at the facilities piece first and then kind of dovetail that next with the attendance zone and the boundary conversations as well. So it's definitely not off the table by any means, and it is actually kind of, I would say, the next thing in the queue once we kind of move through this first phase of decision making with the scenarios to looking at that next in conversation and collaboration with community.
And if I could just add, Tolton, one of the things that this board is committed to doing is we are like learning with the consultants and the community is that we're going to put some policies in place going forward to just make some preemptive decisions about when those attendance zones should change, so we won't be back in this situation in the next 10 years.
Yes. Absolutely. And to that point, Jessica, as well, like again, in our learnings, in studying other districts and looking at even Dr. Johnson's experience and some of the stories he shared from where he's worked and had some convenings, this is a conversation that we should be having actually on a regular basis as opposed to every, say, 10, 15, 20 years, right? We should always be looking at the state of our buildings, the state of our programs, the state of our lines and attendance zones. We should be constantly monitoring those things. And so, again, to Jessica's point, this is something that we have made the commitment to do as this existing board going forward, is that we want to make sure that we're having policy in place, one, that addresses this, but two, that we're having conversation with the community on an ongoing basis and not waiting or passing the buck or pushing it down the line for someone else to deal with and handle later.
All right. Thank you, Board Member Pace. Our next speaker will be Rita. Good evening.
All right, good evening. So I am, just thinking about Continental Colony, so elementary school. And I'm thinking about the closing of the school, and then I'm looking and thinking about the mayor's initiative to reinvest in community. And the reinvestment, the community or neighborhood reinvestment initiative is actually looking at lessening our carbon footprint. How does this plan work with the concept of lowering our carbon footprint? Because if we're closing a school, then we're having people that may walk who are now driving their kids or needing to drive, i.e., or bus their kids to a different school. So how does that work? And then the other part to that is, do you all know who's connected with the mayor's office for the mayor's office supposedly has a new initiative to have groups from different departments like APS, MARTA, DOT, sitting on an initiative, now working together because we've got so many things going on, and it seems like we're all not communicating. Seems like we all don't know that there's going to be more than 2,000 residential units coming here to the Campbellton Road area, the Greenbrier area. So those are my two questions. Who's sitting on that committee for that initiative? And then the carbon footprint. If you need me to restate them, let me know.
No,
No,
absolutely appreciate that. Jessica, I defer to you on the Atlanta, Fulton County conversations that we've been having.
sure. I was going to say we might have to get back to you on the carbon footprint part. I'm not going to pretend like I have a clear answer for that part. I do know walkability has been a part of the factors, and we've been looking at the surveys and data from all of the schools and considering when we were looking at combining schools and that kind of thing. Just today, I was running late here because we were meeting with Fulton County commissioners to have some of these same conversations to make sure that we're aligned around things like the TADs and things around like the affordable housing pieces and the commercial property digest. And so I know Ken Zeph and I went into those meetings today just so we could be better informed. I don't know that there is a board member sitting on that specific council, but I can tell you that every single board member has had a one-on-one conversation with the mayor and members of his leadership team, and we do have joint meetings regularly to get updated information. And I believe we're planning to have one before the year's end as well, so that we can be informed, but also to share our perspective because our ultimate goal is to improve student outcomes. When we support affordable housing, we support great transit and all of the things, but we want to make sure as the city is continuing to build that the needs of Atlanta's children are prioritized in that work. And so please know that we're advocating for that as much as we can. And even though I'm kind, I don't mind asking the hard questions.
Absolutely. Yes, and we'll definitely, Miss Rita, make sure we get back to you on the carbon footprint piece. It's something, to just point, we've definitely heard in a lot of our community meetings, particularly as you look at repurposing, places and spaces, and meaning students may have to go a little bit in a different direction, again, which may mean now less walking, more driving, or some other means. And so one of the things that we brought up actually in our last board meeting was around efficiencies of buildings and also our fleet of vehicles as well. So when we think about, EV and sustainable technologies, we talked last meeting about solar panels and solar farms. We talked about LEED certifications for buildings. So those are things that I actually brought up in our last board meeting to our facilities team and our operations team. And so we're continuing to explore that, but specifically related to where we are right now in the facilities plan. I'll make sure that we circle back to you on that and get a more definitive response.
All right. Thank you. And the time is 6:59, and so we're gonna make Monique our last one, and then we'll let our board members close us out for the night. Good evening, Monique.
Hello, I'm Monique Nunnally. I'm in the Carver cluster, and I have two questions. One, is it possible to get Slater Elementary, Price, and Carver STEAM's name listed in the new release of scenarios? They're just listed as feeder schools. Their actual name is not there, and I think that's disingenuous to the entire process because they've been excluded because they're partner operated. So I do think at the very least, could you all advocate to get their names included in the scenario before November 5th? So that we can name them inside of that document. Their name is nowhere in the document. And a lot of this feels wrong, but I'm gonna just leave that there. At least let's put their name there so that those families aren't trying to guess what feeder school means, because that's the language that's used right now. The second thing is I sent an email a while ago And I didn't really get any individualized response from the board. But my question is, I've said this to Dr. Johnson, the assumption that we are going to attract and support relieving tension in over-enrolled schools due to this choice district-wide school. The evidence suggests something different with our current one-year program. That's the ACCA. Can you all speak to why you all think, or why this consulting firm believes that we're going to relieve tension in the overall schools with APS? I mean, with when we have ACCA, only 2% or less of their students are coming to the ACCA to use its services. So I'm just trying to understand, what is the goal line here? How are we going to keep this school that holds 2,000 kids at Carver High School full without a default of kids coming to it with a feeder pattern? I'm asking for a feeder pattern of a traditional school wrapped in an arts academy. I'm okay with the niche magnet program, school within a school model. No one is allowing us to do that to keep our cluster strong. Everybody's trying to eviscerate our cluster and feeder pattern, which could leave a blighted building in our neighborhood that's historic, because we're betting that people will come. Could y'all speak to, like, what is this bet on? Like, what is this assumption rooted in when the data does not support anybody coming to our community for quality programming like the ACCA from Midtown or Jackson?
Monique, I want to make sure I captured it. I think I heard your question correctly. So basically, the rationale behind kind of centralizing some of these signature programs, and the thought that folks would come from across the district to enroll in or populate those programs in those buildings, right? Okay. Just want to make sure I heard that right. I think we got it. All right. No, you're on mute, Monique.
It wouldn't let me unmute. But yes, that's
Okay.
correct. And the first question is, can we advocate to put the school's names in the proposal explicitly? Thank you.
Absolutely. And I got Slater, Price, Carver, Steen. Did I miss any one of them? That was it. Okay. Perfect. All right, good. And Jessica, feel free to chime in as well. So now, generally speaking, as we've talked to community, as we've had community meetings, and again, this is across the board. So there is, nothing is guaranteed, right? So there is no guarantee that as we create these particular opportunities, that a mass influx of folks from all over the district will come into one particular place and space. However, based on the feedback that we have received, based on feedback from, say, PTAs and go-team meetings, and even like when we have our what we call, I mentioned it earlier, breakfast with the board sessions, as we talk to students in different spaces and places and buildings, they talk about wanting to have certain signature programs in places. Now, granted, ultimately a decision is made by a parent or guardian or family, right, in terms of where they send their student. So even if a student wants a particular program, right, there's no guarantee that a parent or a guardian or family member will say, yes, you can go do that. But it is a somewhat of a chance, right? But based on the feedback that we've seen, based on the info that we've gotten so far, we believe that it's a good opportunity and a good chance to pull students from a good part of the district. Again, we can't control where they come from, but again, based on, again, the feedback and the demand, we think there is high interest for these types of programs. I actually had a chance to go to the ACCA last week for their recruitment event that they had. I think it was Thursday when I went through there, and the turnout was amazing, right? And there were students. I met a family from North Atlanta. I met a family from Mays. I met students from all over, and I remember having distinct conversations with them, right? And so there is a desire for these things. Now, what we'll get into the nuances of is, which programs, right? Whether it's, something like in auto mechanics versus an education versus a dental hygienic pathway versus a cybersecurity pathway, right? And kind of what the population and the numbers and capacity look like for those. But I think generally speaking, there is a large demand that we've heard from students and families wanting these signature programs. So, so that's just kind of first thought and first feedback that we've seen, that we've received. But Jessica, feel free to add anything to that may have been your experience so far that we've heard and seen.
No, I believe that you're on target with just kind of preliminary feedback, but also there's a lot of support in the funding community and with the number of kind of stakeholder groups that would really lift up and support so that it would be a true School of the Arts. I know we've looked at some like the models that they have in DeKalb County and some other places and really believe that there is a strong potential for Atlanta, and we know they tried some iterations of that with some work they were doing over at Douglas, but I think they're using some of the outcomes from that experience to add to the case.
And to that point, Onik, I'll just share earlier in the year, Jessica and I had some really good conversations at Farrell when their IB program was kind of in flux. It was in jeopardy, right? Budget things, it cost almost $500,000 to actually support and fund that program. And so one of the ideas that emerged in conversations that we've had, and we've taken this back to Dr. Johnson, is oftentimes there's the desire to say, well, hey, they've got, 9 APs over there. We should have 9 over here. Or they've got, a full scale IB program there. We should have it over here. And it's not efficient and effective to have everything everywhere. But from an equity standpoint, how can we make sure there's access to those programs and opportunities? And so one of the things we talked about to the point about creating these kind of centrally located programs is even for somewhere like, let's say if we took a Farrell and a Mays, right, or other schools in the southwest part of the city, could we have like an IB hub, right, where it may not be an IB program at Farrell specifically, but it's an IB hub that all of our schools in that area could access, right, that we create access to them, a full scale IB program, right? So that's just kind of like one of the ideas that we've thinking about. Because of the demand, we know that there is a need and a want out there, but how do we make sure that we're efficiently, effectively doing it and being good stewards of the not only the building spaces, but the dollars to support these programs as well?
All right. And so Board Member Pace and Johnson, I'll let y'all close us out. It's 7:07.
Big. Yes.
Oh, sorry,
Yep, you're good. Go for it.
So I just want to again encourage you all to come to the board meeting on Wednesday, but also to be on the lookout. Tolton and I will be sharing information about the subsequent community meetings that will happen after our board meeting, but before the December vote. This is an opportunity. We don't want you all to kind of trickle down and stop paying attention, because the next phase is for the community to decide what fills the space and what the needs are. And so we just want to make sure that you all are continuing to reach out to us, to continuing to voice your opinions and express your needs. And please know that I posted my cell phone number and email address in the chat. Would love to connect with you if there's other clarifying information or details or perspectives that you'd like to share.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jessica. And I'm typing mine in right now as we wrap. I know there may have been a couple of comments or questions that we didn't fully get to. Our apologies for that. So, Keith, if you can make sure, I know we'll usually have a transcript of the chat of the Zoom today. If we could we'll go back and we'll scrub to make sure that if there was any person that we missed or a question or comment that we missed and didn't address, that we just respond back directly. So we'll make a note of that and make sure we follow up with everybody who had a question there as well.
Yep, will do.
All right. Thank y'all so much for hopping on. We appreciate you. And again, just super, super grateful for all of your support and your advocacy more than anything around everything that's been going on the past several months. Again, we want to continue to hear from you. Please, please, please make sure you come on Wednesday to the board meeting so we can hear your voice in the room. Keith, what's the time that folks should sign up for public comment?
Yep. So that time is 5:00 p.m. until 5:50 p.m.
Okay, 5 p.m. to 5:50.
That's the day of the meeting, that Wednesday.
Excellent. Day of.
Classes in person. Yep.
Perfect. In person. All right. Awesome. Thank you so much for that. So looking forward to staying connected. And again, thank y'all so much for being on. All of our community folks, NPU folks, all the neighborhood association folks, super, super grateful for you. So thank you again. Have an amazing evening, and we'll all talk soon.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.